Thank you for the opportunity to gather and do the business of our city. Thank you for the freedoms that we possess, that we may never take them for granted. I pray for wisdom and instruction as we work together to make decisions for the community. Thank you for those who serve this community, both on staff as volunteers, on council, and many of those who work behind the scenes. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
I'd like to mention that while you're sitting in the audience, you may or may not choose to wear your masks, but if you're going to move around the chambers, we ask you to please put your mask on. First up tonight, we have a presentation, and I'll come down there to read it. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Proclamation 2020. And it reads, whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security and humanity, due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse, including to children and to the elderly. And whereas the problems of domestic violence are not confined to any group or groups of people, but cuts across all economic, racial, and societal barriers and are supported by societal indifferences. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting individuals and society. Here in this community, Guadalupe Valley Family Violence Shelter answered 348 crisis calls and had 275 clients receive face-to-face services from September 2019 to August 2020. And whereas women are not only targets, but young children and the elderly also are victims, and sadly, emotional scars are often permanent. And domestic violence costs United States companies at least $3.5 billion in lost work time, increased health care costs, higher turnover, and lower productivity. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Ralph Gutierrez, I, Councilmember Scagliola, the City of Schertz, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and call upon all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our effort to prevent domestic violence, thereby strengthening the communities in which we live. Signed this day. Ms. Brenda. It's not over until you get your picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for having me tonight. My name is Nicole Douglas. I'm the Regional Crime Victim Liaison for Schertz, Cibolo, and Live Oak. Just continued thanking you for your continued support. We were supposed to have a representative from our shelter. Unfortunately, she fell ill today, but on behalf of the police department and that agency, again, we just thank you guys for allowing us to come and for your support and recognizing the information. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Next on the agenda is a presentation on Blue Santa program.
Good evening, Council. My name is Melissa Fleck. I'm the admin assistant to the Chief of Police, Michael Hansen. I'm the admin assistant to the Chief of Police, Michael Hansen. I work over at the police department. I wanted to talk tonight about the Blue Santa program. It was created to help bring holiday happiness to the families and children in the Schertz area. This year, we're introducing our Blue Santa tree, so it's going to be a little different this year. We'll have children that have their wishes on our tree. They'll have little tags. The applications for those that are requesting assistance are available now, and the deadline is November 23rd to turn those in. You can find the applications on Schertz.com and also at the Schertz Police Department records window. Tag pickups for those children will be November 30th until they run out. In our lobby, we'll have a Christmas tree. If you could just grab the tag or tags that you would like and you just take them to the records window, and they'll ask you for your phone number and get the information so that we can gather those tags back at the end. The tags will be due no later than December 14th so that we can get those presents wrapped and prepared. And if you could bring the tags back with the presents, unwrapped. If you have any questions, you can contact myself, Melissa Fleck, or Officer Anna Kraft at 210-619-1200. Thank you.
Thank you. That's 210-619-1200, right? Awesome. Thank you so very much.
Good evening, Council. I'm Officer Kraft, Anna Kraft. I'm the Special Projects Officer for the City of Schertz. Not only are we going to kick off the Blue Santa, we're also going to hold for the second year our Operation Polar Express. The holiday season brings on package thefts off our porches, and we want to try and combat that by asking our residents to mail us, the PD, their packages, as long as it's under 50 pounds. When they can then come to the police department on Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and pick up their packages. They have to bring a government ID and their order or tracking number so that we can show we got that specific package. We will be kicking this off November 6th and running it to December 23rd. Any packages left at our PD on December 24th will be returned to senders. Last year, we had a total of 79 packages, and we're hoping to get more since that was a brand new program last year. And if y'all have any questions about that, feel free to give me a call, Officer Kraft, at I almost gave you the wrong phone number, 210-619-1200.
Thank you so very much. Next on the agenda is an employee recognition. First off, we have Engineering Department. Ms. Woodley. Sounds very good. Okay, our fire department chief.
All right, good evening, Council. I'm excited to be here tonight and introduce a new employee for our fire department team. It's going to be Summer Hall, our new emergency management coordinator, who has already made great strides in helping us out through the COVID process and stuff. But let me give you a little introduction. She was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, Parris Island. Her dad was in the Marine Corps, so they moved around, so she got to visit North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Okinawa, and California. And once he retired, they ended up moving to the Metroplex. She graduated from North Garland High School and then went on to her bachelor's degree from the University of North Texas. She's also completed her master's degree in public administration from Walden University She's been in emergency management about 15 years and also taught some elementary and middle school for 5 years as well. Some of her hobbies is sewing, crafting, hanging out with family, and enjoying time with their dogs. So please welcome Summer Hall to our team.
Welcome, Summer. And it's not mandatory. But if you like, please,
Okay.
say something to the crowd.
I'm thankful to be here. As he mentioned, I had my personal world changed. I got married and I kind of came out of the emergency management world and taught school for about 5 years. We were in an area that emergency management wasn't available as a career opportunity. So this is my reintroduction to emergency management. I spent a little bit of time helping Austin out before I came here, and I'm thankful to be here. I worked for the city of Louisville for 8 years prior to this, and the culture of the city of Schertz is very similar to the city of Louisville and that community engagement and that piece of it, and I thoroughly enjoyed that in my time there, and I look forward to implementing some of those community engagement programs in the emergency preparedness area here in Schertz. So.
Well, thank you so very much for bringing your skills to Schertz.
Thank you.
And now here's something we've been waiting for a long time. Our men and women in blue. We have a couple of new faces in the crowd. So welcome to Schertz. Who has the honors? Rum?
A lot of people. All right. Good evening, Council and Dr. Brown. My name is Lieutenant Roman. I'm with the Uniform Services Department, Division Lieutenant for the Schertz Police Department. Tonight, it's my privilege to introduce the newest members of our family here at the PD. Taking time into consideration, I'm going to make this as brief as possible, okay? The first person we're going to introduce is Samuel Ramirez. He comes to us with 9 years law enforcement experience, and he resides in San Antonio with his wife for 21 years and daughter.
Once again, it's not mandatory, but please, if you want to share some of your wisdom with us.
But it's an honor to be here, and hopefully my experience will help the city and growing the city that's here today. And I also have a son as well.
Awesome. I don't know how we're going to take the pictures, but I think after you've been introduced, if you could line up,
Okay.
probably in back of the podium. Okay, sounds good. They'll coordinate it.
Next, we have Eric Guidry. He comes to us with 4 years law enforcement experience, and he resides in Cibolo with his wife and 2 children.
Been here for about a month. It's been great. Thank you guys for having me.
I'm with you. Frank Chavarria, hope I said that right. He comes to us with almost 7 years law enforcement experience, and he resides in San Antonio with his wife and 2 children.
Thank you for the opportunity to work for the city of Schertz Police Department.
Next is Alberto Della Torre. Very good. Alberto has 5 years law enforcement experience, and he lives in Cibolo with his wife and newborn son.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Next is Ricardo Lozano. He has 3 years law enforcement experience and resides in St. Hedwig with his wife and 2 children.
Thank you. Everybody's been open arms with us and appreciate it.
And John is elected to be the spokesperson for these first 4 people. John McClendon comes to us with 4 years law enforcement experience, and he lives in Converse with his wife and 6 children.
Briefly, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. I think that a police officer has many qualities, but 3 of the most important to me are compassion, work ethic, and just being available with a servant's heart. And I think that that's what you're going to get from us. So thank you for the opportunity.
With the exception of Ramirez, they all came from Converse Police Department. So
I believe Ramirez came to us from New Braunfels. Next, we have Ryan McAllister. Ryan comes to us with 3 years law enforcement experience, and he resides in New Braunfels with his wife and their son.
It's a fantastic city, fantastic community, and absolutely honored to work here. Thank you all very much.
And lastly, we have Rolando Pena. He doesn't have any previous law enforcement experience, but he did serve on active duty in the United States Army from 2008 to 2016. He lives in Cibolo with his wife and 2 children.
I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and work for the city of Schertz. Thank you to everybody in the police department for welcoming me and showing me the right way.
That's all we have. And we thank you for those members who supported us on Saturday at the Back to Blue Car Parade. We appreciate it. It's fortunate that we have an opportunity to serve in a city that supports their police department. Thank you.
Next up would be Public Works. Mr. Ledbetter.
Good evening, Council. Dr. Brown. I want to introduce Chris Peacock. He comes with to us from as a worker too, with a lot of knowledge in streets, maintenance. He started September 14th and is learning how we do business here at Schertz, learning from a good group of guys. He was born August 26, 1992 in Live Oak, went to elementary school at Schertz, graduated from Samuel Clemens in 2020, and he has grown up in Schertz and has now recently moved to New Braunfels. Christopher has a wife, Teresa. They have 5 kids. Natalia, who is 12, Alicia, 10, Derek, 7, Ian, 5, and Amelia, 3. His hobbies, he likes to fish at the coast and hang out with the family at the beach.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Next is utility billing. Going once. Okay. And finally, library.
Good evening, Council. Melissa Yulhorn, Library Director. It's my great pleasure to be here tonight to introduce to you our newest employee. This is Samaria Sams. She began work mid-October. She was born in Landstuhl, Germany, and grew up in an Army household. She had the opportunity to live in Germany, North Carolina, and Missouri before her father retired. They subsequently settled in this area, and she lived here in Schertz for 10 years before moving to Converse. In 2017, she graduated summa cum laude from Samuel Clemens High School as part of their International Baccalaureate program. And in May 2020, she graduated summa cum laude from the University of Mary Hardin Baylor with a Bachelor of Social Work. She's currently working towards her Master's of Social Work online at Texas State University. She loves working with children, and she previously volunteered with us at the library, helping April with our youth programs. She also volunteered with her children's ministries at both her church and as part of the Baptist Student Ministry at UMHB. She previously interned as a case manager at Bright Future Child Placing Agency in Belton, and she currently volunteers regularly at the San Antonio Hope Center. Her professional goals are to work in children and family services as a social worker. Specifically, she's hoping to work with schools or in foster care and adoption agencies. She tells us she's very excited to be working with the city of Schertz since this is where she grew up, and we are delighted to have her back in the library because she was an outstanding volunteer with us. So my great pleasure. Welcome, Samaria.
Good evening. I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be here. I'm very excited to be back in Schertz working, and I've only been here for a couple of weeks now, but it's been a great experience so far, and so I'm just so glad to be here. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is city events and announcements. Dr. Brown?
I don't have any announcements, Mayor. Any of you? Okay, Sarah's got some for the city.
Okay. Sarah?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So a couple of announcements for tonight. The first one is election notice, and so I think I have it all, but I know Brenda will correct me if I'm wrong. So early voting continues through this Friday, October 30th. You can check out our city's website for a list of early voting locations. It's going to be, again, for a general election to elect the following places: Place 3, Place 4, and Place 5. The general election will take place on Tuesday, November 3rd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Again, check out our city website for your county's list of vote centers, or if you have any questions, please contact the city secretary's office. On tomorrow, Wednesday, October 28th, is National First Responder Day. Lunch is going to be provided at 11:30 a.m. for fire, EMS, and PD. I'd like to invite Mayor and Council to attend if you're available. Fire will be serving lunch out of Station 1. EMS and PD will serve out of their training rooms. On Saturday, October 31st, for Halloween, we're not going to be holding our traditional trunk or treat event, but instead the alternative spooky social distance, and it's going to wrap up with the Candy Cruising Trail. So this will take place from 12 to 5 p.m. It's a drive-through treat trail, and if you want some more information and a map of the participating businesses, you can go to the city's website or look on the Schertz Parks and Recs Recreation Facebook page. And finally, due to the election, we will not have a city council meeting next Tuesday. And so the next regularly scheduled council meeting will be on Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. back here at the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the city council. Each person will be allotted about 3 minutes to speak. And keep in mind that discussion by the council of any item that is not on the agenda shall be limited to statements of specific factual information only. We can't have a discussion on it. The first individual on the list is Kaylin from our Taekwondo studio.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Kaylin Aikul. I am currently training at Kunja Musul Martial Arts School. I am a candidate black belt getting ready to test for my black belt next December 2021. I am here to tell you what we have been doing for this past month. Let's see. Starting off, for this past month, we have been raising money for the Alamo Breast Cancer Awareness. A few of our instructors and 2 dads of students have volunteered every Saturday to train for a bike ride to Fredericksburg. Our goal was to raise $2,500. We ended up raising $3,600. Oh. And we are still continuing to raise for the rest of this month. Every Saturday throughout the month of October, we have been doing women's self-defense classes, and this Saturday we'll be having another one at 10:30, free of charge. We are doing a trunk or treat on this Friday. It's going to be completely contactless, just a drive-by, and we'll shoot some candy into your car with the invention that we've come up with. And that's about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much, and best of luck on your testing.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Maggie Titterington.
Good evening, Council. We had an awesome Shred Day event, and before I go into the final numbers that we had, I wanted to thank quite a few people in the city of Schertz that made this possible. Mark Brown, Doug Ledbetter, Officer Montez, who was out there directing traffic for us, Mark Bain, Suzanne Williams, who helped us with the signs, and Charles Kelm, who I bugged a couple of times just to pull him into it, and he helped me coordinate all this together. So the young professional group, Hyper, came together with the Better Business Bureau, partnered up with some people in the city of Schertz. We had 304 cars in 3 hours that we unloaded. It was amazing. And the best part is that we were doing 100% funds that we raised, and it was by donation. It was a free Shred Day. But we said, you know, if you can donate $5 because we want to help feed families in the holidays. We collected $1,600 in 3 hours, thanks to the generosity of the residents of Schertz, Cibolo, and Selma coming out there. So we're working with RACAP, and we're going to be able to adopt at least a dozen families to split up between Thanksgiving and Christmas to provide the presents also, in addition to the food basket. So we are thrilled. We're looking at doing the Shred event again, but in April of next year instead of October, because October's the Skylight Balloon Fest, and that's just crazy. Want to let y'all know that we have our awards luncheon on November 17th, and I was hoping Mayor Gutierrez would be here because he has been nominated. He's a finalist for Mr. Congeniality, something that Councilman Scagliola knows a little bit about, but he is one of the finalists that has been nominated by our business community, so hopefully he will come out to see if he wins. Also, as you all know, and I wanted to thank you all, Councilman Davis and Councilman Brown, and pretty much, I think you all were there for the 6 ribbon cutting event that we had. That was amazing. We've never done anything like that. So Main Street in Schertz is certainly getting built up. Very excited about that. Thank you all so much for coming out. The business members felt so appreciated by the city of Schertz with y'all showing up like that. And the last thing that I have is on November 11th, we're doing a multi-city Veterans Day ceremony. The cities of Schertz, Cibolo, and Selma are coming together. The mayors will be there, or Mayor Pro Tems in the case of the city of Selma, to support this ceremony. And what we're hoping to do, it's through our MAC committee and through cooperation of the city of Schertz at the Veterans Plaza, that we'll try to transition this to where next year it'll be in the city of Cibolo, next year it'll be in the city of Selma, and all the cities supporting these ceremonies together. But that will be November 11th, 9 a.m. at our Veterans Plaza, and Brigadier General Carolyn Miller will be our keynote speaker for that ceremony. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maggie. Okay, this is a long last name, and it went between the lines, so I apologize if I mess it up. But Susan de Grafen Reed? Very well. Next on the list is Shannon Green. Okay, would you like to speak at one of the other agenda items? Is that what you're waiting for?
Yes, but it's item number 12.
Okay, we'll see if we get to that. And finally, Jill Whitaker.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jill Whitaker. I'm at 12214 Hope Seed, and I wanted to take this last opportunity to introduce myself. Should I wait? To introduce myself as a candidate for Schertz City Council Place 3. I just wanted to remind, as we heard earlier, that there are 3 days of early voting left. So if anyone is interested in coming out and speaking with me about issues or questions that you might have prior to making your final decision and placing your vote, I'm out at the polls daily. So I will be out at the El Bell location at the Guadalupe County office building for Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then also on election day. So if you have any questions for me, I would love to speak to you directly. Lastly, I wanted to thank all of the city council members as well as the city staff for your time. Over the course of the last several months, I've had lots of questions about the process, about how the city operates, and I just appreciate the time that you've spent sharing information with me and helping me get through the campaign and learn a lot more about the city. And it's because of that that I'm just even that much more excited about the opportunity to be a part of City Council, and I look forward to finding out how that turns out on Tuesday. And again, I wanted to thank everyone, again, for your help. And lastly, don't forget to go all the way down the ballot. City Council is a nonpartisan position, so you won't see an R or a D next to anyone's name. So research each candidate, make an educated decision, and I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Well, okay, generally, things on consent agenda item aren't discussed. I would pull the item if you like, so you can speak then, or you can speak now.
I'll speak now.
Okay.
Kind of speed things up a little bit. I apologize. This is the first time I've ever been at a city council meeting, so not really sure how things go. My name's Susan DeGraffenried. I'm the acting president of the Fairhaven HOA. I know that you guys are considering putting a park in, or helping to put a park in, or developing a park. And I just wanted you to know that last Sunday, myself and our secretary talked to the neighbors along that area, and we are very happy about the park being developed. We are supporting that park to be developed 100%. We do have to have a vote of our entire membership in order to get it to go through, but we've got a lot of support from our neighbors to get that done. So just wanted to let you guys know how we're feeling about it, and that we're very, very excited about it.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, consent agenda items, consider self-explanatory. Oh, excuse me? Oh, I do apologize. Our city secretary has a couple that should be read into record.
Yes, thank you. This is from Mr. John Sullivan, who resides at 513 Triple Crown, Schertz, Mayor and City Council. I'm addressing item 22, ordinance number 20S33, up for public hearing tonight. In the past budget cycle, council voted to lower the tax rate. I would like to point out that this new subdivision will be the new southernmost residential development in Schertz. We know residential developments put increased demands on city staff and services. So this new development is effectively a request for more revenue to expand the service area for many departments. These new higher-end homes will stretch our staff even more thin, while revenue from taxes will lag new residents and will not cover the cost. The city will see increased calls and visits for emergency services, code enforcement, animal control, permit inspections for new homes, public works, sanitation, street repairs, park services, even permit inspections for later additions such as pools and more. Generally, the impact on city services would not be a major factor, but given we are already understaffed in these departments, and this is even farther from the city's service point, it's something for you to consider here. Rezoning from rezoning from GB to M1 is likely to have a greater cost to the city long term. This is probably okay as long as the city council plans for this and keeps the ever-increasing service area for the departments in mind when making funding decisions for future city staff resources and maintenance needs. Continue to devolve current residents' services does not seem like a great plan for a premier city that is likely to continuously grow for decades to come. Thank you for your service to our community. The next one is from Clark McChesney. He is the president of the Lower Heights Estates HOA. He says, Council, I have asked that this be put on to be read by the city secretary. My name is Clark McChesney, 7018 Halley Heights, Schertz, Texas. I am also the president of the Halley Heights Estates HOA. On behalf of our board of directors, I want council to know that we are supportive of this zoning change from manufacturing light and general business to planned development district. City staff encouraged Mr. Rittenhouse to reach out to us, and we appreciate the thorough and professionally presented information regarding the developer's plans for this area. We look forward to commenting on this again as the project progresses into the planning process in the future. Our board, on behalf of our homeowners, Also wants to remind council that development does not come without cost in the city service and infrastructure. We take exceptions to the statement in the background information where it reads, there will be minimal impact on public services such as schools, fires, police, etc. We believe that every community in Southern Schertz will tell you that we feel that we are underserved with routine police patrolling. Chief Hansen's focus on community policing is great, but his department is under-resourced to meet the mission. We rarely see routine police patrols in Lower Heights estates. I expect the same can be said of a reserve at Schertz Forest, Willow Grove Estates, and the Crossline, and other great communities across Southern Schertz. On the subject of infrastructure, Graytown and Boning Road are both substandard and rapidly deteriorating. The speed limit on Graytown at 45 miles is too high for the current conditions of the road and lack of center line markings. Walking along Boning Road can be like attending an NHR drag racing event. These challenges exist now without additional development. We encourage you to improve this zoning change, but also if you would also intend to make a future commitment to additional resources for the underserved residents of Southern Schertz. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Moving on to the consent agenda items. There are 19 of them, so I know Mayor Carpenter used to try to do this in one breath. I am not going to do that. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 22nd, 2020. Item number 2, resolution number 20R116, a resolution of the City Council of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to sign and execute development agreement extensions in relation to development agreements entered into July of 2010. Item number 3, resolution number 20R126, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to sign an interlocal agreement for fire protection services in Guadalupe County between the City of Schertz and the City of Seguin and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 4, resolution number 20R127, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an amendment to an interlocal agreement with the Schertz-Cibolo Universal City Independent School District for EMS services and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 5, resolution number 20R128, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing expenditures for the fire department with Motorola totaling no more than $120,000 for communication equipment during the 2020-2021 fiscal year and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 6, appointments of Mrs. Judy Godlick for the vacant alternate position on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and appointing Mr. Banalas vacant alternate position on the Library Advisory Board. Item number 7, resolution number 20R129, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing expenditures with Hoff Association, Inc., totaling no more than $390,000 for professional engineering-related services on the Tri-County Parkway construction project and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 8, resolution number 20R130, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing expenditures for equipment purchases as part of the fiscal year 2021 vehicle and equipment replacement program. Item number 9, resolution number 20R123, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, reappointing Justin Murray to the Board of Directors, Place D2 of the Cibolo Valley Local Government Corporation and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 10, resolution number 20R122, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, approving and authorizing a right-of-way easement with Guadalupe Valley Electric I was on a roll, I really was. Electric Cooperative, Inc., on the City of Schertz Southwest Quadrant water plant property and other matters in connection therewith. Okay, let's get back on the roll. Item number 11, resolution number 20R114, A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an economic development performance agreement between the City of Schertz Economic Development Corporation and Kellum Real Estate, LLC, and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 12, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to submit a local parks grant application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department Outdoor Recreation Grants Program for future development of the Hilltop Homestead Park and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 13, resolution number 20R117, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, approving a request for a Schertz Main Street Local Flavor Economic Development Grant for 603 Main Street in the City of Schertz, Texas, and related matters in connection therewith. Item number 14, resolution number 20R121, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a purchase agreement with Great South, Inc., doing business as Computer Solutions, and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 15, ordinance number 20S29, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending Part 3, Schertz Code of Ordinances, the Unified Development Code, UDC, Article 5, Section 21.5.8, permitting use table, specifically for the Main Street Mixed Use MSMU zoning district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Item number 16, ordinance number 20S30, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning approximately 2.94 acres of land from single-family residential agricultural district RA and general business GB to neighborhood services district NS, located northwest of the intersection between FN 1518 and Schaefer Road, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas, also known as DG Schertz Additional Subdivision, Lot 2, Block 1. Final reading. Item number 17, resolution number 20R124, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a public library interlocal agreement with Guadalupe County, Texas, and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 18, resolution number 20R125, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, appointing members to the Alamo Area Council of Governments Regional Emergency Preparedness Advisory Committee and other matters in connection therewith. And item 19, ordinance number 20M34, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the City Code of Ordinances, Article 1, in general, Section 2-125, designation of Records Management Officer, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing an effective date, and this is the first reading. Okay. Are there any items that... What? No. Those are discussion items. So, does any member of the council feel the need to pull any of these items for further discussion? Thank you, by the way. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Dalla. Let's call for any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. We have 6 ayes. Motion passes. Aye. Okay, now item 20. Discussion and action. Ordinance number 20B36. Consider an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Schertz, Texas General Obligation Refunding Bonds, Series 2020, levying an annual ad valorem tax within the limitations prescribed by law for the payment of the bonds, prescribing the form, terms, conditions, and resolving other matters incident and related to the issuance, sale, and delivery of the bonds, including the approval and distribution of an official statement pertaining thereto, authorizing the execution of a paying agreement, registrar agreement, an official bid form, and an escrow deposit letter, complying with the letter of representations and filed with the Depository Trust Company, authorizing the execution of any necessary engagement agreement with the city's financial advisors and providing an effective date. First and final reading. Thank you very much. You going to bail me out on this? Go for it.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is James Walters. I'm the Finance Director. I also have with me Mark McCliney from Samco, and he's about to tell you some good news related to our bond refinancing that happened earlier today. So I'll turn it over to him and let you know how this is different than when we brought it to you back in September.
I appreciate it, Mark. So Mark, you're going to explain to us what all that means, right?
Yes, sir.
You're wonderful. Thank you.
Council, it's always good to be here. We've been working with your staff, with James, Mark, Charles, Brian, as we prepared for the bond sale. We were here a month ago or so, 6 weeks ago, to discuss the possible refunding. You all gave us permission to proceed. At that time, we said we would come back today with final results. The first page, and I don't know how to page up. Oh, just like that.
Or I can use the arrows.
So the first page, we went out for bid, received bids today. A little bit unusual for the city of Schertz to only receive 3 bids on a bond sale. And we did a little research on that, and for the same reason we wanted to do the refunding prior to the election, the same reason we had bidders that were reluctant to bid if they didn't get all the bonds sold. So normally we have 8 bidders for Schertz bonds. Raymond James is almost always bidding. And so with their bid and then with the other 2 bids, we were satisfied with that, especially once we found out why they weren't bidding. Again, 4 years ago in the election, the day after the election, interest rates for the next 60 days went straight up for about 70 basis points. Bidders right now are reluctant to bid if they don't have the bonds sold prior to council taking action. And so the other firms that normally would be bidding didn't have the pre-sale. These 3 had the pre-sale, and in fact, Raymond James had them all sold prior to actually submitting their own bid. Their interest rate 117, which is phenomenal. If you look at the second page, the top bar going across are the bonds that we called, that we're taking from the investors. We have the right to do that on February 1st, 2021, and to do it as a current refunding, it has to fall within the 90 days. Thus, this little fight between getting it done before the election and after the election. The net result was that 117. If you look there in the bottom box on the left, savings are going to roughly average about $130,000 for a total of $1,947,000 after all cost of issuance, net to the city. The numbers that we ran prior to this when we were here at council was $1 million. You can see that on the box on the right. The preliminary numbers were savings of $1,342,000. Total savings $600,000 more than what we were projecting about 6 weeks ago. Again, thanks to the staff putting together the great responses for the rating agencies, the information gets out into the bidding public, and Raymond James has the ability to bid on this with little risk, since their bonds are sold before you all authorize it to them. They have done what's called pre-sale and got them all sold, and so their spread was able to be reduced, ending up with more money in the city's pockets. That is everything I have. What we will do, and it's just the last page, if council authorizes it, we'll work towards closing, which would occur November 18th. We'll use those monies, put the money in an escrow, waiting for the February 1st call date, which is the first day we can take them from the investor. But as of today, if you authorize this, the savings are locked in.
That's always good to hear.
And our recommendation would be to award to Raymond James.
Anything additional from staff?
We originally showed council, it was, the savings annually was about closer to $100,000 to kind of give you another scope of what this will look like annually going forward. With the sale of the bonds, this coming fiscal year, the one we're in actually right now, won't change, and we'll realize the savings during this next budget cycle when we go forward.
Very good. Any questions from council? And keep in mind, if you make a motion to approve this, there is some specific verbiage that you need to use. Questions? Councilmember Hayward?
No. No question.
Oh, your light's on. Anybody else?
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Schertz, Texas General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 2020.
Second. Have a motion by Councilmember Larson and a second by Councilmember Davis. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. You have 5 ayes, no nays, motion passed.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Item 21, resolution number 20R83, resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an interlocal agreement with the City of San Antonio for the release and acceptance of extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ, and related matters in connection therewith.
Thank you.
Hello.
Council, Brian James, Assistant City Manager for the City of Schertz. Interestingly enough, you have 2 items on tonight's agenda dealing with the city limit boundaries. On the consent agenda, you approved a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with a number of property owners who 10 years ago had entered into agreements with us to be annexed. Because of a number of factors outlined in the staff report, it made sense to delay those annexations, and you approved that. The item before you tonight is a little bit the opposite. It's a resolution authorizing us to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of San Antonio. And essentially that interlocal agreement, San Antonio gives up a portion of land in its ETJ or extraterritorial jurisdiction, about 140 acres. And ETJ is property not in the city limits, but the way I describe it, much probably to the chagrin of the city attorney, is it's sort of the area that each city has first dibs on to be able to annex. So if land is in a city's ETJ, another city is not able to annex it, and that city can choose to annex it, the initial one at some point in the future or not. In this case, adjacent to that 140 acres is another large portion of property, and both tracts are under ownership of one property owner. That property owner approached us and said, hey, we're looking to try to bring about some development on the property. We have to make a big investment in infrastructure. As we try to do that, it makes sense to us to be under one city's rules and regulations and know what we have to do to follow. And because we've worked with the City of Schertz in the past on a different adjacent tract, it makes sense to us to maybe bring this in. We said, great. It's in San Antonio's ETJ. But after conversations, what they asked is if we'd approach San Antonio to release it from their ETJ. We did that, and San Antonio staff has said, yeah, we think it makes sense. We're willing to recommend approval of it. Part of the reason for this is the tract in question has very little actual access to City of San Antonio. The property, as you read in the staff report, is bounded on the north and south sides by railroad tracks, which are difficult to cross, virtually impossible to get new crossings, and by the Cibolo Creek on the west side. So really access for this property is going to come from Tejas Way, which is the new road that was extended off of Doer Lane. So because that traffic's going to be coming through Schertz, it sort of makes sense for us to do this. Again, we approached City of San Antonio, worked out the deal points of an ILA. We sort of started with what we did about 10, 15 years ago. Councilman Scagliola was probably on council back then, where we entered into an interlocal agreement where they released a large part of southern Schertz to the City of Schertz for us to be able to annex. And so this is similar. So again, what the agreement outlines is how quickly City of Schertz needs to move to bring the property in to the City of Schertz, or it would revert back. We have committed, much like in the previous agreement, to applying our various development ordinances and regulations. And then finally, again, because certainly one of the things that cities, as you heard from some of the folks who spoke earlier tonight or had their comments read, their cost of providing services and their benefits from property in terms of tax base. And so because of that, cities typically don't ever give up anything for nothing. And so in this case, because of a lot of those factors, we felt like we could find a win-win on this. Because right now, City of Schertz gets no benefit from this property being in San Antonio's ETJ. And we will likely experience traffic, things like that, and whatnot. And so what the agreement is in the ILA is essentially for a 30-year period, the city will share the revenues collected for the city 50-50 with City of San Antonio. You received an updated version that we got late Friday. It essentially basically says, here's how much time we have to pay when we receive those funds, and they have the right to audit our books on how we came up with those calculations. Again, James Walters works with City of San Antonio staff now on that Southern Schertz agreement, which again, to different terms, but has a revenue sharing. And so with that, staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Yeah, Mr. James, you make it sound so easy, but I know considerable effort went into this to convince San Antonio to release a portion of their city limits. Any comments from the council? Councilmember Dalla?
Yeah, I just reiterate what Mr. James said. I was involved as a citizen on the Southern Schertz annexation, and it was a 10-year agreement, and worked out pretty good. And yeah, 30 years is a little tough, but we're going to bear all the costs of the roadway impact from that development, and might as well.
Any other comments? Do you hear a motion?
Make a motion that we pass resolution number 20R83.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brown, second by Councilmember Woodward to approve. Yep. Hayward. Hey, I've been standing out in the cold all day. Brain cells are frozen. Hayward. There you go. Okay. Any other comments? You call for the motion.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay. Now we have a public hearing coming up along with this ordinance. Ordinance number 20S33, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning approximately 204 acres of land from General Business District GB and Manufacturing Light District M1 to Planned Development District PDD, located southwest of Greytown Road, stretching between Interstate Highway 10 and Baynig Drive, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas, also known as Bexar County Property Identification Number 619201 and 619202. And we'll hear from staff and then open it up for a public hearing. Sir.
Good evening, Council. Nick Copier, City of Schertz Planning Division. As Councilmember Skagula said, this is a zone change for around 200 acres from General Business and Manufacturing Light to Planned Development District. So just for your reference on the proposed zone change, this is the boundary outlined in green here. For some reference streets, this is Interstate Highway 10. This is Greytown Road. This is Reserve at Schertz, the existing subdivision out there in Southern Schertz. For the zone change, we did send public hearing notice mailers to the surrounding properties within 200 feet. Of the, I believe, 31 we sent out, we received 4, and these would be separate to the responses you heard in the hearing of residents earlier. 2 were in favor and 2 were opposed to the proposed zone change. So here's a copy of our current zoning map. As you can see, the property is zoned Manufacturing Light and General Business District with these gray and blue colors. It's currently surrounded by other properties zoned Manufacturing Light and General Business District, largely used for some residential, but mostly agricultural or undeveloped. And then across Graytown here is land zoned single-family residential agricultural and is used for single-family residences. So same scale, but this is the comprehensive land use plan, specifically the Southern Schertz sector plan update. As you can see, the subject property and most of the surrounding areas are designated as the estate neighborhood future land use designation. There are highway commercial designated areas along the hard corners of I-10, but the entire subject property is estate neighborhood. And so what does estate neighborhood actually mean? So it's intended to address the residential development patterns in Southern Schertz with a mandated minimum lot size of 1/2 acre. Which basically leaves two potential options for redevelopment for those areas designated as as estate neighborhood. One, they could develop in accordance with the equivalent zoning district of RA, which is like the Reserve at Schertz or Holly Heights or any of those subdivisions across from Graytown Road, in which the maximum density would be 2 dwelling units per acre. Or they could choose the alternative development option, which is the estate neighborhood plan development district, which is what the subject zone change would be. That still mandates the same overall density as the RA zoning district of the 2 dwelling units per acre, but allows for kind of flexible residential clustering options that would allow for reduced infrastructure costs and preservation of a larger amount of open spaces. So in our Unified Development Code, there's a section for the model standards for an estate neighborhood plan development district, what we would typically look for. So the Graytown PDD, this subject zone change, would mostly follow the EMPDD development standards outlined in that section of the UDC. It would maintain the same standard max density requirement, but it is also proposing to reduce the minimum open space requirement from the listed 50% to 41%, primarily in an effort to develop much larger lots than would be typical. So what kind of lots are they proposing within Graytown? So in those sample development standards that you would see if you went and looked inside the Unified Development Code, you wouldn't see mandates for a specific lot size in there. All you would see is the 2 dwelling units per acre maximum density, and that's how that's governed, and that's how the number of lots is necessarily governed for ENPDDs. So what Graytown is trying to do is establish 2 different lot types, the SF80 and SF100, aptly named for their width. The SF80 would be 80 by 130 lots with an area of 10,400 square feet, and the SF100 would be 100 by 130 with 13,000 square feet minimum area. There's also a stipulation that the overall development of the Graytown subdivision must include at least 50% of these larger SF100 lots. Now, what that means is that the absolute minimum average lot size that you would see across the entire subdivision as a whole is 11,700 square feet, or typically like a 90 by 130 lot, which is larger than any sort of minimally required single-family lot that we'd have in our Schertz zoning code. So this leaves the open space requirement. So that 41% of the open space that they're proposing, it equates to about 84.5 acres. Which breaks down to 43.5 acres as public park and 41 acres as private open space lots. So of the public park, 10.5 acres would be outside of the floodplain to include a number of improvements such as walking trails, pavilion, backstop for a ball field, parking lot and restroom. And then there are 33 acres proposed to be within the floodplain, and the key mark of that area will be the preservation of the 2 large ponds that are existing today. 41 acres of the open space will be private, serving a number of purposes, but primarily to connect the homes to the main park area, to the public park, through these open space corridors, to preserve drainage channels and to buffer the single-family residences from the homes, or from the thoroughfares, excuse me. And there are a number of thoroughfares on the proposed site, such as Benzingelman, Graytown, Bainig, and it's close to I-10 as well. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board accepted the Graytown Park on August 24th, 2020. For the visual council members, what would this look like? So this would be their park plan. This area that's in color is the proposed public park, and as you can see the 2 ponds I was talking about. Again, this is just a conceptual plan, and I'm going to zoom in right here on this phase 1 improvements section. And this would be the kind of area that the developer would be proposing to improve within that park with the improvements that I was talking about. And so this lot size and this open space, how does that balance and what could that potentially look like? So here we'd have their conceptual plan as an ENPDD example. You can kind of see the two hallmark characteristics of what I was talking about for an ENPDD, which is this clustering of the residential lots into distinct sections with the preservation of large swaths of open space here, with this the public park. And then you see these channels of this dashed area here. These are also open space, trying to connect all these lots to that park space to preserve more open space as well. Now the next development standard proposed change I want to talk about is the signs, and this will be the last proposed change that they have. They are proposing to change the subdivision entry maximum number and maximum height of those signs, and the maximum number and duration of installment for the development signs. I have an example of kind of both of these, just for context. This would be, and I know it's a bit of a dark picture, I apologize, the subdivision entry signs for Ashley Place, the neighborhood off Schertz Parkway. We're talking about these signs here integrated into the walls. And then for a development sign, it's something typical that you'd see when a new development is coming up, like a real estate sign, like these lots are coming in at this price point, something like that. So their proposed regulations we have here. So how this table works is this is our UDC section, this is our current regulation and what they're proposing to. So for those subdivision entry signs, like the one on Ashley Place, it's currently maximum of 6 feet height, and they're proposing a maximum of 6 feet in height unless incorporated into a masonry wall, in which case it could be 8 feet. And they're also proposing additional subdivision entry signs to a 1 sign per entrance on Greytown Road, of which there are 3, and they can have 2 if they're incorporated into the masonry wall. So what that could look like is the example I showed you with Ashley Place, how they're incorporated in the masonry wall, and there's 2, 1 on each side. For the development signs, they're increasing the maximum number to 1 sign per entry, not to exceed 4 total, when the current regulation is 2 total. And they're also increasing the duration for which they can remain up. Right now, it's removed after a maximum of 3 years, and they're proposing after a maximum of 10 years following the recordation of the first plat, given the long-term aspirations for the project. So the Planning and Zoning Commission met on September 9th, 2020. They recommend approval of the proposed zone change by a 4-3 vote. Just for context, a number of the concerns brought up by the commissioners that voted against the proposed zone change was the difference in the minimum open space requirement between the Greytown standards and the sample standards in the UDC, as I showed you, the 50 to 41%. The presence of the single-family residential base zoning along I-10, part of this zoning boundary does abut I-10 off the hard corner a little bit. The sign regulations were too lenient, specifically the duration of the development signs, and then they also talked about the potential drainage concerns with the floodplain. Staff is also recommending approval of the proposed zone change for 3 key reasons. 1, the comprehensive plan conformance. It's in direct compliance with the comprehensive plan, that estate neighborhood future land use designation. The ENPDD marks exactly what we're necessarily looking for something like that. The larger lots, the 80 by 130 and 100 by 130 lot categories proposed. We know that the larger lots have been desired by P&Z and by City Council in the past, and so we think that would offer a nice amenity as well. And then the proposed public park and open space would be a welcome addition to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as agreed by the Parks and Advisory Board a couple months ago. To kind of touch on the public hearing, or the hearing of residents' comments read by Brenda a little earlier. So just to clarify, this is just a zoning case, and so our statement in the staff report regarding the impact to existing services was just in the context of the zone change. So we agree with their comments. Once development goes up in this area, there will be an increase of emergency service calls. There'll be a need for more responses. But the actual proposed zone change from GB and M1 to a residential zoning district is not necessarily having a direct impact on those services. It's going to come with the development regardless of what it develops as. So that's when you're going to see that increase response from fire and PD specifically mentioned in those comments. And regarding the potential impacts of the city from rezoning GB and M1 property to something like a single-family residence, it's in direct conformance with the comprehensive plan. That entire area is designated for a state neighborhood, and so this falls exactly into what the vision for the future of that area is, notwithstanding the hard corners, obviously. The applicant is here. I believe he does have a presentation as well. whenever you'd want to do that. That's fine.
Yeah, you can go outside.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Rittenhouse. I work with the developer, Denton Communities, the developer for the property. I put together a small presentation. A lot of the information was already provided by Nick very well, so I apologize in advance for the repetition. Just to start off with, developer of the project, that's us, Denton Communities. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but those are some of the projects that we've done in San Antonio and the surrounding areas, just for your review. Location of Greytown Valley, as mentioned before, the tract on that aerial is surrounded by the red boundary line. You have Greytown Road to the north of the page, I-10 East to the eastern portion of the page. Bainig Road is on the western portion. Across the street from that is City of San Antonio, the Summer Hill subdivision. And then you have Scenic Lake Drive on the southern portion of the tract. Master plan, I'll go into some of the details in some of the slides here in a moment, but just to give you kind of an overall, where you see the streets and lots, that's basically where the pods are. The larger pod is the 100-foot wide pod. The smaller pod is the 80-foot wide pod. In between, you have the floodplain and park area. There's natural lakes in that area. On both corners, being I-10 and Greytown, as well as Bainig and Greytown, you have the two commercial corners. Those are existing general business zoned. Zoning map, in the purple boundary here, you'll see what's being rezoned. That is all of the 2B residential portion of the tract. That makes up the 204 acres. As you'll see, the two existing general business corners are outside of the rezone and staying as the existing general business zoned tracts. Acreage map, this basically kind of color coordinates the different land uses within the tract. As you'll see, you'll have the two pods in white with the streets and lots on them. In green, you have the park area, which is the 40-plus acres of public park. In red, we put the detention area on there. Obviously, detention is required in the city of Schertz, and so we wanted to include that on this aerial for your viewing. The two commercial corners are shown in purple, and then the open space area, in addition to the park, is in orange as well. Development program, so this is just a summary, basically, of the development and the main points of it. Total acres, you're basically looking at 222 total acres on the tract, of which 204 acres are proposed residential, and then the two corner commercial tracts make up the 18 acres. Total number of lots is 300. Number of lots per acre, that's 1.47. That is a low density compared to a smaller lot community, which you see a density more around the 4 to 5 per acre amount. Lot sizes and amount, as mentioned before, you have a 100-foot width by 130 depth. We made the lots a little bit deeper. There's 201 total of those. And then you have on the other smaller pod, the 80-foot wide lots by 130 feet in depth. And there's 99 of those. So there's basically twice as many 100s as the 80-foot lots. House price range, we're expecting the range to be from the 400s to the 600s as far as the houses are concerned. This is very comparable to Laurel Heights Estates and the Reserve at Schertz, which is across the street from Greytown Road. Total park and open space acres, as mentioned before, you're looking at 43 acres of parkland, and then you have another additional 40 acres of open space. That equals to 84.37 acres total, which equates to approximately 41% of the site. Commercial, you have the existing zone commercial corners, I-10 East and Graytown Road, which is the larger one at 11.79 acres. Then you have Banig Road and Graytown Road, that corner, which is 6.67 acres. Builder program, we haven't contracted the builders yet, but we've talked to them. They have a strong interest in the project. We're thinking 4 builders total, 2 on each lot size. Kindred Homes, which is formerly Wall Homes, which is the builder across the street in Laurel Heights, they would like to come over and replace that project with ours and be on the 100-foot lots. David Weekly Homes would be the other builder on that lot size. And then Monticello Homes and Bel Air Homes would likely be the 2 builders on the 80-foot lots. Park plan details, I know Nick already covered this. As mentioned before, we have a 43-acre park. You have existing lakes, which form the core of the park. You have a multi-use walking path, a tree plant, and extensive landscaping. We'll build a pavilion, playground, playscape. Along with that, there will be park benches, a water fountain, and a restaurant, and a parking lot as well. Park plan, you saw this rendering a little bit earlier. It shows the park in the middle there in green. You'll see the existing lakes there, and then the park amenities is in the yellow area on that corner there. This is a little more zoomed in look at that. As you'll see, we have a parking lot, the playscape, the playground, the pavilion, and a sidewalk connection. Lastly, we put together some typical questions and concerns just because this often comes up when a new development comes on board. First question being, will house prices in Graytown Valley devalue my house, Laurel Heights Estates, or the Reserve at Schertz? Answer being, the house price values will be from the 400s to 600s, as mentioned before, be comparable to the existing homes across the street, Laurel Heights and the Reserve. As mentioned before, Kindred Homes will be one of the builders in the community, coming across from their existing position there. And I think as mentioned before, we did send our information and this presentation to the board at Laurel Heights. We did not receive any comments or issues back, which we were obviously very grateful for. Will there be a sea of rooftops outside my back window? As mentioned before, Graytown Valley has a net density of 1.47 dwelling units per acre, which is very low. And it's a significant amount of open space, passive and active recreational amenities. We are doing the 8-foot tall masonry fence abutting Graytown Road, which is in your restrictions or regulations for a PDD. And lastly, the rezoning of the land can be considered a down zoning, as the PDD designation allows for less intense use than the current GB and manufacturing light zoning that exists on the tract. Will new houses cause new traffic problems? We have multiple access points planned in Graytown Valley, including locations on both Graytown Road and Banig Road. Per the City Code and TIA review, roads will be sized appropriately for proper circulation. Graytown Road is to be widened according to required improvements for construction of half of the ultimate width of the road on the property's frontage, and that same thing goes for Banig Road as well. All roads and classification of roads will be reviewed and approved by the city prior to any construction. Graytown Valley is a 10-year project with homes being built in stages per development phases. We included that last statement in there because oftentimes there's the misconception that you're going to build everything out at once, all 300 lots, and that's simply not the case. We do it in phases and units over time. A lot of that is market driven, but there'll be a gradual evolution of the track and of the project as we go through the years. Will new houses and improvements cause drainage issues to my property? Graytown Valley must provide detention on site per city code. That was the area shown in red in that prior slide. Under the detention scenario, no increased stormwater runoff will leave the site, and pre-development or existing conditions for drainage are maintained. Basins will be sized appropriately at plating stage with the preliminary drainage report having already been submitted to the City of Schertz for review. All drainage improvements will be reviewed and approved by the city during the plating process and before any construction can begin. And that is it.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, we're scheduled for a public hearing on this particular item. So is anybody wishing to speak on this matter? I will open the public hearing. Nobody wishing to speak? Public hearing is closed. Okay, I do have a couple of questions on this project. Nick, just to reiterate that we're not looking at the subdivision itself, we're just looking for the rezoning of this property right now. Sewer or septic? That's always a big question.
City sewer.
Sewer or septic for these houses?
City sewer. Sewer.
City sewer.
Sewer.
Excellent. I like the plan to improve
Well, yeah, but
I'd like to plan to improve Great Town Road. I'd like to know a time frame for those improvements, if any idea.
So the timeline and the measure improvements will be dictated by the traffic impact analysis that they'll do within the master development plan that they'll perform after the zoning. That full design and kind of the details and nuance of that are typically done following the zoning because of the extensive time and kind of costs that go into that. But that'll be developed by the TAA. Obviously, with 300 lots, the TAA is going to call for significant roadway improvements, dedication improvements. So that'll be built out to the ultimate classification, whatever it is in the master thoroughfare plan, I believe. It's a rural arterial, I think. Greytown is what you were talking about, correct?
Yeah, it's about 45 miles per hour on that street, but good luck trying to get your vehicle up to 45 miles an hour.
Right. So it'll be if it's substandard, it'll be absolutely improved with this development to serve them as it goes. Like you said, it's a long-term project. So
glad to hear it. Who's going to be responsible for maintaining the parks in this subdivision once it gets built out?
So the public parks will be maintained by the city, and then any of the private open space lots, like you saw, like we were talking about with the detention, or with any of those channels you saw that were connecting, as I showed, I can show you on here. Those will be privately maintained. So anything like here and the detention he was talking about here, any of these likely drainage channels or otherwise connecting open space corridors will be privately maintained by the HOA.
Okay. One final question. I don't like the idea of losing GB and M1 space. That type of zoning is precious in our city as far as I'm concerned for economic development. And I hope when we move forward with our land use study, at least my concern is being addressed, and we don't get into a habit of approving a lot of these, which takes away more and more of our GB. I know you can't do anything about it except file it maybe back of your brain, so that when the topic comes up, you say, "Oh yeah, I remember there. Yeah, I remember."
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're zoning in conformance with what we have as the comp plan now and what that large area is designated as.
Yeah.
I think you do see a sort of a conscious effort to try and leave, despite a lot of the designations areas for the commercial, like you're talking about up here, like the hard corners of some of the larger arterials. But they are going into what the comprehensive plan says is appropriate at the current time.
Just to address the concerns that people are worried about this taking us by surprise, I think pretty much the city council and the staff has been working on plans to develop this area for a long time now. It's not really taking us by surprise. We have planned for it. Any other comments by the council? Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, understand I got great concerns on Greytown as well. I've had a lot of travel down there. Notice that you're building up Ben Zingelman in there. Is there a future road plan with that?
So yeah, it's on our master thoroughfare plan as eventually connecting to the existing Ben Zingelman.
I just don't remember seeing it on there.
Oh yeah, it's on the master thoroughfare plan, which is why they've kind of connected it. Like you said, it's not a road you're going to immediately get benefit from, but it's on the master plan as a decades-long kind of connection to the surrounding communities, San Antonio specifically.
Anybody else? Councilmember Dalla.
Got a question on the lakes. Are those natural lakes, or is there a man-made dam there to hold the water?
They're natural, correct?
They're originally natural, but there's been some cultivation of it from the landowner from previous years and decades.
Okay. I'm just wondering, with looking at having to redo the lake there at Homestead, you know, that if we're taking on a liability there.
Obviously, TCEQ will have to be consulted, during the entire process.
Yeah, the Parks Department's had discussions with the developer about what needs to be done with the dams. You're right, one of the issues we don't want to take on is taking parkland that we immediately have to go in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to those dams. And so again, at Homestead, the developer's doing it, and we would look at the same case here with this developer before accepting it.
All right, overall, I like it. You know, we have a lot of M1 zoning down there, and obviously the zoning doesn't match the land use plan and the estate neighborhood. I think it's a good fit, and it's good to see that the neighboring community also supports it, and price points look like something that we're interested in. The lot sizes makes it somewhat unique. The pod structure is somewhat like Cali Heights, where we kind of done the same thing, not quite on this scale. Yeah, let's do it.
Any other comments? Do I hear a motion to approve this ordinance on the first reading?
So moved.
Okay, I heard an echo. I heard Councilmember Dalla make the motion. Say again. Okay, so Councilmember Dalla made the motion and seconded by Councilmember Davis. Do I hear any further discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 6 ayes, motion carries. Okay, thank you so much, Nick. Okay, our city secretary will provide us with the roll call vote. Confirmation, please.
Yes, Council. Consent agenda items 1 through 19. A motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Dalla. Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scaglione, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Ordinance number 20B36 on first and final reading. The motion was made by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Davis, to adopt an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Schertz General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 2020. Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Scaglione, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 21, resolution number 20R83. A motion was made by Councilmember Brown, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Scaglione, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scaglione, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Ordinance number 20S33 on first reading. A motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Davis. Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scaglione, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is a workshop. Chief, you going to give us an update on COVID? Discussion and update regarding the COVID virus and our current ordinance number 20H18 declaration of local disaster.
Yes, sir. Finally get back and visit. Okay, Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, just excited to be back here. Go through just a quick update with you. And it's been a while since we've looked at the numbers and just kind of talk about what they've done and kind of where we're at right now. So the current numbers for Guadalupe County are showing 3876 with all but 33 recovered. Bexar County is showing 3,000 active, and Comal County is showing 119 active. Just wanted to mention at the bottom there, you'll see what we've received so far in reimbursement funds is $429,341 is the reimbursements we've received to date. Again, just getting back to kind of showing the trend lines and showing you what kind of the other counties around the state are looking like just from a kind of active case count. Again, with Houston continuing to kind of stay up there pretty high. And then coming back to just go through real quick the Guadalupe, Comal County, this just kind of shows we again had some numbers kind of fluctuate and everything's kind of normalized now, coming out a little more normal now. And so you kind of see that reflected here between kind of what we were at the end of the month, into September, coming into this week. Just kind of been between 58, 33 cases, so we're just kind of staying kind of in that neighborhood right now. So a lot of the cases that they found kind of normalized out between the different reporting data structures at this point. Again, just the fatality ratio, again, is just staying. I think we've only had, since we met last, we've had, I believe, one additional death in the county in the past month. So that's kind of stabilized at this point and kept that number at the 2.06 mark for the fatality ratio. Positivity rate, just kind of comparing the state and Guadalupe County here, just kind of shows you kind of where we was a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of the month and where we're at now. Still hovering between the 4 to 6% range. It's kind of where we're at on our positivity rate. And the state's been staying, you know, in that 7 to 8% range pretty much all month. So that's been good so far. Just wanted to show you kind of what the school district's reporting, just where you can kind of see the difference there and the numbers there. The blue is the student cases and the orange part of the bar is the staff cases. And so they had a little spike, but it's come back down some. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what it's looking like in the school now. And again, this just kind of breaks down how many students and staff in each school are on there at this point. So just a quick update on the students. And then the state disaster declaration, again, on October 7th, Governor Abbott extended the state disaster declaration for an additional 30 days. And then since we've met last, there was a new executive order, GA 32, that come out, and it talks about the hospitalization rates being tied to the openings and what's able to open and what's not. And again, it allowed, if the hospitalization rates that we'll look at here coming up is less than 15%, then increased occupancy can occur, as well as giving the county judges the authority to open bars at a 50% occupancy load. A lot of the bars had already taken the approach of moving to operating as a restaurant as well. But nonetheless, that was in Government Order 32. And then again, just kind of shows you where the trend is across the state right now. So we're starting to see a little tick back up. You can see from the trend line there. And then again, the hospitalization rate in our area that is reflective of that 15% that we talked about. We've been in the 3 to 4% range right now, so well under the 15% that's allowed us to take the increased openings at this point, as well as the county judge for Guadalupe County putting in the paperwork for bars to open if they submitted the paperwork to the county. And again, just to kind of give you, looking at that hospitalization rate again, just kind of giving you a picture of the state. Again, you can kind of see El Paso is spiking there, and Lubbock and Amarillo are spiking there as well, just to kind of give you kind of a view of the state of those hospitalization percentages based on those occupant openings of 75%. So once you go over 15%, then that would get pushed back down. And again, just kind of ending showing you the hospitalizations in Bexar County hospitals. You know, we've kind of tracked it. It's been up, down, and last time, you know, we looked at it, we were kind of getting below that 200 mark, so we've kind of stayed there for a few weeks, and now we've crept back up kind of in the 230, 240 range is what we're starting to kind of see each day, but it's kind of staying kind of in that range right now. So that's the quick numbers update.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Good job.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is a closed session. The City Council will meet in closed session in accordance with Section 551-.071 and Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney, and deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. Closed meeting. The governmental body is not required to conduct an open meeting, one, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or two, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect or on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Act. This is Project E064. And we will be conducting the closed session in these chambers. Anybody wishing to wait for us to conduct the closed meeting. It's cold outside, so if you would, please wait in the lobby or in the council chambers, and we'll call you when we're ready to reconvene into regular session. So at this time, it's 7:37, and we're going into closed session. Let's take a 5-minute break, if you will. Everybody in? 7:56, we're reconvening into regular session. 24A, action based on discussion. There's no action to be taken. No need for a roll call vote confirmation. Item 25, information on election updates. This information has been provided in our packages and also available online. Requests and announcements. Dr. Brown, do you have anything for us?
The only thing I participated in was Love Where You Live, which was in the Aviation Heights area 2 weekends ago, and it was a great opportunity. I think we had a great turnout, lots of volunteers, worked on lots of homes, so I think it was a very successful event, so we look forward to the next one in 6 months.
Thank you. Any council members wish to put anything on the agenda or ask for an update on any particular item? Going once, going twice. Recognition of council members. We'll start with Council Member Davis. Council Member Larson.
Nothing.
Council Member Adala.
Attended a few events over the last month, a couple chamber events, coffee with the chamber luncheon last week, and then also the multiple business ribbon cutting down on Main Street. It's a really good event.
I participated in the Back to Blue parade. A wonderful event. It was absolutely amazing seeing all the people out there along the parade route. Super event. Council Member Hayward.
I attended several events over the last time we met. I went to a plaque presentation at the chamber, the MAC lunch on Randolph Air Force Base, which was unique. Got to see some night vision goggles in play, and it was interesting to kind of see that and the cost factor in those night vision goggles. I did the Northeastern Partnership luncheon. Let's see, TML conference online, did Back the Blue parade, the fire prevention poster contest, judging contest. And that is all.
And Councilmember Brown.
Just one question. Did anybody get an official count on the participation in the Back the Blue? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I got to the end of the list. There being no further business, consider us adjourned.